Hey everyone! I managed to get out and fly a lot this week with my AcroBee. I discovered a few new places to fly here in town, regardless of what the weather was like outside. I also worked on fixing the yaw washout on my Beta75X and learned something interesting about inverting motor direction using Betaflight. Is it as easy as simply toggling the prop direction option? Stay tuned to find out more. So this week I managed to get out and fly quite a bit with the AcroBee. Before I went flying, though, I decided to replace the motors with some new gold motors. The old motors I had on the AcroBee were just sluggish, and I've heard, they only get about 10 hours of life. I found the motor swap to be very, very easy. Simply just, unplugging the connectors from the flight controller, pulling out the motors was really the hardest part of the job just because they sit very snug in that frame. Once the new motors were in, did a bench test, and I was good to go. Um, I also discovered that because of how small and lightweight the AcroBee is, very few people seem to have problems with you flying them, especially if you're flying indoors. I also discovered that it's really, really fun to fly the AcroBees inside malls when there really aren't a lot of people there. Even when I was out flying, I did run into security a few times, but after I showed them how small and lightweight the AcroBee was, they really didn't seem to care. They just told me, to stay away from people. So if you're learning to fly, an AcroBee, I'd say is a fantastic way to get into learning. I think if I were to go back and start from scratch, that's one of the things I would change. Is I'd focus on getting an AcroBee first, just because of how fun they are and how agile they are in the air. Again, making friends with security rather than being, super confrontational is a great way to get access to special or closed off areas of the mall. One of the malls I visited here has been open for a few weeks, but vendors still haven't moved in. So there are a lot of really cool spots that I was able to fly simply because I was really friendly with security. And at the end of the day, they're just curious. They just want to, know what you're doing, know what the hobby's like. I mean, the questions they asked were, how expensive is it to get into and stuff like that. So yeah, AcroBee's fantastic way to get into learning to fly. It's also a great way to make a lot of new friends if you're flying in indoor places, especially when the weather is bad outside. I also worked on fixing the washout issue I was seeing with my Beta75X this week. I tried reverting the rotation to the default Betaflight rotation. However, that was unsuccessful at fixing the washout. The washout just occurs in a different manner. It's still that, consistent when you're trying to make a turn. It just kind of, the craft just becomes very unstable to fly. So this week I'm going to be checking out a tuning guide that quite a few people have been sending me. To be honest, it's been 3 weeks of me trying to get the issues figured out on this Beta75X. Most of the issues are known by the community, but as a beginner, I expected the Beta75X to be a bind and fly and work really well out of the box, but I don't feel that's the case. Maybe next week I'll be able to fly without some of the issues I've been facing. While swapping the motor direction on my Beta75X, I discovered the way to actually get the motors to operate differently isn't as straightforward as I thought. It's not as simple as changing the setting in Betaflight. So first I swapped the props on the Beta75X, then hooked it up to my tablet so I could use BL Heli. Once BL Heli read the settings, I was able to see that 2 out of the 4 ESCs had their rotation set to reversed. I went ahead and inverted that, so the 2 that were set to reversed were now set to normal, and the 2 that were set to normal were now set to reverse. Saved the settings, and then just double checked by disconnecting and reconnecting that the settings actually saved. Once I saw that the ESCs were configured correctly, I opened up Betaflight and then went into the configuration tab and notified Betaflight that the motor orientation is reversed. After saving and rebooting that, I went to the Motors tab in Betaflight and did a quick spin up test just to make sure that the motors were rotating in the right way. Once that was confirmed, I turned on my Tyrannus and did an actual bench flight test just to make sure that at least hovering, all the props were in the right direction and everything would arm up properly. So to answer the initial question was, is it as simple as toggling the motor is reversed option in Betaflight? The answer is no. You actually have to use BL Heli to go in and change the direction of the motors, because that setting only affects the PID controllers in Betaflight. Last thing before I wrap up this video this week, I just want to say a big thank you to a few people, specifically mall security, that was really kind in letting me fly in their space. You all know who you are. Also, a big thank you to everyone that left me YouTube and Facebook comments. That's it for this week. If you like these videos so far, please hit that subscribe button. You can also find me on Facebook at Nibz FPV. Thanks for watching.